but we are in Nehemiah 7. We're going to start in verse 1. So let me tell you, this verse has 75 verses or something in it. And so the middle section of about 50 of those verses is basically a dude and how many people are connected to his genealogy. I'm going to skip over those because you can read those for yourself, okay? But I want you to understand, Nehemiah is going to be walking through everybody that returned to Jerusalem in this passage, okay? So we're going to start in Nehemiah 7. Nehemiah 7:1. Now, when the wall had been built, this is the wall of Jerusalem. If you're just joining us, he's rebuilding the wall that had been torn down by the Babylonians about 100 years earlier. Now, when the wall had been built, and I had set up the doors and the gatekeepers and the singers, and the Levites had been appointed, I gave my brother Hananiah, the governor of the castle, charge over Jerusalem. Underline the rest of the sentence. For he was more faithful and a God-fearing man than many. And I said to them, let not the gates of Jerusalem be opened until the sun is hot. So you don't want to open it during the night when people could break into the city. And while they are still standing guard, let them shut and bar the doors. Appoint guards from among the inhabitants of Jerusalem, some at their guard posts and some in front of their own homes. The city was wide and large, but the people within it were few, and the houses had not been rebuilt. So there are some houses that are functioning in there, but the whole city's still been torn down for 100 years. So they haven't started rebuilding the inside of the city. They just rebuilt the wall. Underline verse 5. Then God put it into my heart to assemble the nobles and the officials and the people to be enrolled by genealogy. Circle genealogy. And I found the book of the genealogy of those who came up at first. This is the exiles. And I found written in it, these are the people of the province who came up out of captivity of the exiles, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried into exile. They returned to Jerusalem and Judah, each to his own town. They came with Zerubbabel. So a man named Zerubbabel led the first wave of people from Babylon back to Jerusalem before Nehemiah's time. They came with Zerubbabel, Yehoshua, Nehemiah, this is a different Nehemiah, Azariah, Rahamiah, Nahamani, Mordecai, Bilshah, Mishpereth, Bigvai, Nehum, and Banah. So he lists all the men and their family lineage and all the people that were connected with them. And now we're going to jump all the way down to verse 60. And all the temple servants and the sons of Solomon's servants were 392. The following were those who came up from Tel Melah, Tel Harshah, Kerub, Edon, and Emer. And underline the rest of the sentence, but they could not prove their father's houses, nor their descendant, whether they belonged to Israel. The sons of Delia, the sons of Tobiah, the sons of Nekoda, 642. Also of the priests, the sons of Hobiah, the sons of Hakaz, the sons of Barzillai, who had taken a wife of the daughters of Barzillai, the Gileadite, and was called by their name. Underline all of verse 64. These, all those guys, sought their registration among those enrolled in the genealogies, but it was not found there. So they were excluded from the priesthood as unclean. And the governor told them that they were to not partake of the most holy food until a priest with the Urim and Thummim should arise. So this is how they would divine God's will in the Old Testament, the priest would. Verse 66, the whole assembly together, all of the list that was through those verses was 42,360, besides their male and female servants, of whom there were 7,337, and they had 245 singers, male and female. That's one large worship group. You thought our group was big, 245. And their horses were 736, their mules 245, their camels 435, and their donkeys 6,720. Now, some of the heads of the fathers' houses gave to the work. The governor gave to the treasury 1,000 derricks of gold, 50 basins, 30 priest garments, and 50 minas of silver. And some of the heads of the fathers' houses gave into the treasury of the work 20,000 derricks of gold and 2,200 minas of silver. And what the rest of the people gave was 20,000 derricks of gold, 2,000 minas of silver, and 67 priest garments. So the priests, the Levites, the gatekeepers, the singers, some of the people, the temple servants, and all of Israel towns. So they're living outside the city right now because the city is not safe. The walls have been falling down up until Nehemiah rebuilds it. And when the 7th month had come, the people of Israel were in their towns. Here's what we're going to talk about. If you're just joining us, Nehemiah, a man named Nehemiah, is the cupbearer. His boss is the king of the world, King Artaxerxes. He owns all the land everywhere. Nehemiah is a Jew. He hears that his homeland, Jerusalem, has been destroyed by the forebearer of King Artaxerxes, Nebuchadnezzar the Babylonian. God puts it in his heart to travel back to his homeland to rebuild the city of Jerusalem, which Nebuchadnezzar tore down. That's what he's been doing the last 7 weeks that we've been in this book. He now finishes the wall. Watch this. The first mission was, let's make the wall secure. Here we go. But the job's not done. Ready? There's an aspect to your life that is when you get your mission for God, the basics down, God has something else for you to go pursue. So what am I talking about? Your marriage. Does God want your marriage to stay together? Yep. So if that's a weak spot for you right now, let's work on that. God wants your marriage to stay together. Okay. How are you at your job? Are you a witness for Jesus at your job? Or do people just go, oh no, here she comes? Okay, well then maybe there's some aspect to your work you need to work on. So there's basics. Who am I as a man or woman of God living in the world? Do people see Jesus in me is basically it. But that's basic. That's just being a Christian. That's my mission is to get that solid. Let's get that solid. Is that solid? Yes or no? If it is yes, God has more for you to do. And that's what's happening here. It's like a secondary mission once the basics of the wall get done. We're going to look at it today. If you got your notes, pull them out. They should be inside your bulletin if you came on campus or you're in one of our other venues. We're live all over the world right now, and I'm so glad you're here if you're online with us. At the top of the comment section on Facebook and on YouTube is a link. Click on that link and my notes will come up. And number one is this. Here's how you continue your mission. Your mission, watch me, your mission is never over till you're dead. Once you get your basics covered, God has something else for you to do. That's what we're going to go at after today. So for some of us, it's like, oh, I'm solid in all those areas. Like, my marriage is awesome. Like, job's going great. People see Jesus in me. Sweet. God has something else. The mission never stops. Until you see Jesus, your mission always continues. So if you're retired in here, some of us are getting a little gray in the hair, up here. Ready? You can retire from your job, but you never retire from Jesus. Here we go. Number one, Nehemiah chooses the right leadership. Nehemiah chooses the right leadership. You ever been under bad leadership? 6 people. 6 people been under bad leadership? It's 7 people. Okay, good. All right. Hey, it's horrible to be under bad leadership. You chafe under bad leadership. That's when you start looking for a new job or a new state. Ready? Here's my encouragement to you. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. God has a way of changing leadership. So here we go. I'm going to walk right into your life as it deals with leadership. Humans are built for leadership. We are built to have somebody running the ship because not billions of people can't run the ship. Somebody needs to take responsibility and run the ship. And it's awesome when the leadership above you is awesome. Because you feel secure, you feel stable, you don't feel insecure, you're like, he or she's got it. But man, when leadership is bad, it's really bad. So understand, ready? Nehemiah is going to choose leadership for this next mission, the next part of filling Jerusalem. The wall's built, let's put people in there. But this is super important. So he's going to have the best leadership possible. Here we go. In the first phase of the mission, Nehemiah rallied the people to reconstruct the wall surrounding Jerusalem, which was finished in an amazing 52 days. So in less than 2 months, they put hundreds of thousands or millions of pieces of this wall back together, which is unbelievable. In the second phase, though, he organized the people that were living outside Jerusalem to move back into Jerusalem. And here's our first principle. Good leaders can build places, but great leaders can motivate people. Hey, great leaders can motivate people. The best of the best of the best. A lot of people can build a thing, a company, a building. But man, it's really when you get into the heart of people where they want to follow you. Hey, come, let's go do this thing together. let's do life together. And people go, yeah, I want to do life with you. Like that's the kind of elite leadership that Nehemiah has. And so for many of us in here, God is calling us to that kind of leadership. It's a leadership principle, but it's a biblical principle of God. We're built for leadership. If you have a great leader above you, things are great. If leadership is horrible, I talked about it last week. Men, you're the leader of your home. So be a great leader. Love your wife, love your family, love your kids. Let your whole family look to you and go, man, I'm so glad you're leading our home. Let your wife have security rather than insecurity because you're the head. You're the tip of the spear, son. So let everybody line up underneath you in your home and go, man, I'm so glad dad's here. That's the ideal. Many of us never had that growing up. It was insecurity and anger and fear, or maybe some of us don't even know who our dad was. So for me to talk about these things is like, I don't even know what that looks like in a family. But here's the reason many of our families are falling apart in our culture is because we lost the whole point of this. God builds leadership into organization. And the family is the smallest organization. It's the nucleus of a culture, of a nation. If you get this right, you can get this right. Our culture goes, let's try to get this right and force it all the way down to here. No, you go for the heart first. And then when people go, man, I want to follow you, then all of a sudden mission flows with it. A mission for your home, a mission for a church, a mission for a nation. It all flows out of people going, I trust you because you're my leader. Good leaders can build places, but great leaders can motivate people. Listen, understand, if you're a supervisor in here, you're a CEO, you own your own company. If you have anybody underneath you, do they respect you? Do people want to work for you? If you have high turnover at your company, or you have high turnover in the wing of your division or whatever, if you're the supervisor or you're the CEO, you have to start thinking, why aren't people staying here? You might be surprised at this. People will work for less if they believe in the mission of what they're doing, which is why people leave 6-figure, 7-figure jobs because they hate it. But people work, hey, you're flipping burgers, you're flipping chicken. Be a good chicken flipper. And if you're the supervisor over those chicken flippers, make sure you tell them every day, hey, guys, we're not just selling chicken. We're on a mission to sell the best chicken. You're a pastor. Goes to El Pollo Loco on the 79 all the time. 3 people love chicken right here in the second row. I go there because some of the young men of our church actually work there. And I guess some of them are in this service. So I go through the drive-thru all the time. And what's awesome is they'll slide the thing back and they don't realize it's me. And they'll like, Pastor Jim. And all of a sudden they're like, go and get the best chicken out of the back. Give him the best salsa. And all of a sudden they're putting the little thing together. But you know what? All of a sudden it's a matter of pride. All of a sudden it's a matter of, it's not just about chicken. It's about hey, we're doing something that matters. It happens to be their pastor or whatever. But here's the thing. If you're a supervisor, you run a Chick-fil-A or you run whatever. Listen, your job isn't just to move chicken. Your job is to motivate people. Because when people believe they're on a mission, they'll actually work for less because they believe in you as their leader. Listen, life is all about mission, and mission has to have a leader. And if that leader is great, people behind you will go, hey, let's help push the rock up the hill. If they don't believe in your mission, they just keep dragging the mission back. And then you have a high turnover, and then you got to train somebody else, and nobody sticks. Because it doesn't matter if it's flipping chicken or running our nation. Everything is built on mission led by somebody. And Nehemiah in this passage is going to rally the people to move back into Jerusalem. The mission's not over because the wall's built. Here we go. To manage this most important stage, Nehemiah chose godly men he could trust. He recognized the most important transferable skill wasn't talent, but a desire to please God. Here we go. Great skill controlled by great character produces a great product. Wow. I wish somebody had told me this in my 20s. Because most of us are just taught in our leadership classes. You go to UCLA and you get your MBA or whatever it is. And it's like they kind of teach you how to run a business or with the flow of economies or world trading or whatever. And it's like, of course you need to know those things. But The highest value you can have is that somebody trusts you. And trust comes from character. Character is missing from our culture. If I could tell you teenagers or preteens in here or high schoolers, 20-somethings, the best thing you can do is know Jesus, so Jesus transforms your character. That way when you're on the job, people trust you, they see greatness in you, and it happens to be Jesus. Even the baby agrees. Like, that's legit. Listen. The point I'm making is this: the best transferable skill you have isn't necessarily that you're great at coding, isn't necessarily that you're great at whatever job thing you've got. Is that important? Yep. You need to know how to do your job. But some of the most important things you can transfer is that people, when they call for your references, speak highly of you. Dude, I wish he hadn't have left. She was the best we had. Oh man, dude, I wish that guy hadn't had to move. Guys, he was the best, man. I loved working with that guy. And then the employer, which I've been on the other side of this thing, goes, dude, I got to get this guy. Everybody loves him. But here's the other side of the phone call. Hey, we're just calling about Johnny, and I'd like to know, if how was Johnny at your job when he worked there? He worked here. He was an employee for 4 months. Can you tell me a little bit about his time at the job? He was an employee of our company. That's all you got? Yep. That's the importance of having a character that people can count on. And that comes from knowing Jesus. That means you have integrity. That means you show up when you say you're going to show up. That means you do the job that you say you're going to be paid to do. So do it. And do it well. Do it for Jesus, not just for your paycheck. Because a paycheck's nice, but working for Jesus has eternal consequences. Here we go. Nehemiah based his decision on what he had observed in the men during the difficulties and disappointments of construction of the wall. Here's our principle. Past performance is an indicator of future production. Past performance is an indicator of future production. Here's the reason I'm telling you. Now I'm going right for your resume. Ready? I'm going right for it right now. So I just got done talking about be a person of character, and it'll enhance your resume. Now I'm going to actually talk about your resume. Ready? Like, what you've done in the past is a picture of what you'll do in the future, which is why you give a resume to somebody and go, hey, here's my resume. Resume for an employer or somebody that's you're talking to, all it says is, this is what I've done. Here's the truth. I would rather see, and most CEOs would rather see, somebody who has spent 4, 5, 6, 7 years at one job and has worked their way up in that job and been stable and awesome. And when I call that guy, go, I wish he would have never left. I call the supervisor and go, I wish he would have never left. Then I, as an employer, go, I need that guy because he's going to be here for a minute. He's going to do a good job, and I know I can trust him. Because you can't buy character. That's got to be in a person. Watch. Here's what you don't want. Is to see you've been at a job for 5 months and 28 times for 5 months, over and over and over and over, and you're a quitter. Ready? Because past performance is a picture of future production. So why would I hire somebody that I know I'm going to have to train, and 3 and 5 months later, they're just going to bail? So Nehemiah isn't just looking for character, guys. It's the most transferable skill. So yes, he is, but he's also looking for guys that during construction, they weren't the complainers, they weren't the giver-uppers, they weren't the this is really hard, they weren't the I have to walk 150 steps from the new building. He chose the guys that's like, I know I could trust him. What I've seen in the past, I know I'll get out of him in the future. Listen, here's the point I'm making. Be the trustworthy person. Literally, this is how you build your life. Your resume should, even from a work standpoint, should be like, here's how I worked hard. Here's what I did there and I got better and better and better at my job. I was there for a significant amount of time. And here's what I did here. It's better to have 2 or 3 things that you worked hard on and did well on your resume than 28 things that were 3 months apiece. So let me help you as your pastor. I'm trying to make your life better out of God's word. This is what people look for. Do you have high character? And are you reliable at your job? Because I can teach skills. I can't teach character. That's got to be in you. It's got to come from the inside. I can teach this. I can't teach this. Which leads us to number 2. Number 1, Nehemiah chooses the right leadership. Number 2, Nehemiah gathers the right information. So this deals with the genealogy that we just saw in that passage. God put it in his heart to validate everyone's genealogy who came back to Jerusalem from Babylon. The purpose was to make sure that those who would be experiencing the finished city of Jerusalem were actually those who belonged to the people of God. Here we go. I'm going to walk into heavy waters. Pay attention. Don't tap out at me. Don't think about lunch. Don't yawn. I know those are 3 things big. Ready? Here we go. The blessing of God comes to those who are part of his family. Does God bless everyone? Atheists, people that hate him, people that don't believe he exists? Yeah. He gives rain. He gives gravity to hold them to the planet so they don't fly off. I mean, the goodness of God is everywhere. You don't even have to believe in God to enjoy the goodness of God. The God that you don't believe in blesses you every day. It's a joke. It's a joke to be an atheist. You just look around you and go, of course somebody built stuff. But whatever. Moving on from that. The best blessing is to actually be part of the family of God. You want to know how my family would bless you the most? Is if you became part of my family. If you weren't part of my family, you're like, dude, we need some beans and rice tonight. Like, my family's starving. Does my family want to bless you? Of course. We'll take care of you. But the greatest blessing is actually going to be in my family. You know how you get into my family? You're either born in it, you're adopted into it, or you marry into it. And those of you guys that know my son, he's going to be picking himself up a little wife. At the end of this year, I've only got one child. I got one son. We don't believe in polygamy, so I got one daughter that's going to be coming into my home. This is like the one shot, right? And so as we've been talking about the future marriage of this year, it's been interesting that Morgan now, who was just in our nursery ministry in the first service, she's seen me, so she sees me up on stage with all these lights and blah, blah, blah. But she also sees me at home, which is why it's surprising she still wants to marry into my family, right? So it's like, when you're in a family, there's no like delusions of grandeur. You see everybody at their gnarliest. When they're mad, when the bills come in, when the best day ever, whatever, the cat poops, you're like, why did I get this? Like you see the spectrum of everything. Ready? It matters to be in a family. Church is a family. Church isn't a building. This thing is not the church. You are the church. The people are the church. When we leave here in the next 3 hours after I'm done, the church will have left the building. The church will have gone to do God's work. You are the church. We didn't build a church. We didn't remodel a church. That thing over there that we're opening up for the children isn't a church. You are the church. Where you go is where the family goes. We are the family of God wherever we go. So here's the thing. Ready? Nehemiah tells people, I'm not going to let you into the city. I'm going to check your genealogy to make sure you're part of the family to be blessed by the work of God. So it's one thing to live outside of the city and you're unprotected. You're living out here. You still can have some of the enjoyment of being part near the city, but to be part of the family, he actually checks your genealogy. Do you actually belong here? Ready? That's what it means to be part of the family of God. You know how you enter the family of God? Is you repent of your sin and come to know Jesus as your Savior. And he transforms your heart. And then you become, you're rebirthed, you're born again into the family of God. So that's how you enter the family of God. So it doesn't matter what your skin color is, doesn't matter what your socioeconomic background is, it doesn't matter who you are. If you come to know Jesus, you enter the family. Which is why this church is exploding. Because God is transforming lives here. Here it is. Here's a picture of Google Map of what I'm talking about. This isn't just random stories from some old dusty book. This is the size of Jerusalem in Nehemiah's day. It was kind of a long, slendery type of city. He rebuilt all these walls. So we will go there in July. And here is an artist rendition of what it may have looked like 2,500 years ago. So you can see the wall. Only people of the Jews, genealogically proven Jews, could live inside the wall and enjoy what it meant to be part of the family. Many people lived outside in the towns, outside, unprotected. Still had some of the benefit of the city, but it's different being in the family than it is living outside. So the city here is a physical representation of a spiritual reality. Are you part of the family of God? Because the best way to be a part of it, to be a part of the blessing of what God's doing, is to actually be in his family. And that's what we do here at the Orchard, Discover the Orchard class, which is after this service at 1 o'clock. We had like 20, 30 people in the first service joining. You'll see the end of this result of this at the end of this service. People are continually committing and joining our family. We believe in membership here because you're a member of a family, you're a member of a gym, you're a member of a nation. And then people go, I don't want to be a member of a church. What are you talking about? You're a member of everything else in your life. You're a member of physical families, and you're a member of a spiritual family. So commit to this family. That's what it means to follow God and be a part of what God is doing rather than just shopping. Stop shopping and land. Ready? Here we go. After discovering who came back, Nehemiah made decisions on who was allowed to live in the city. Here's our principle. Good information from the past allows good decisions in the present and produces a great future. So again, I'm going to say this to you. Look at me. When you make major decisions, make sure you have the right information. If you have bad information, you'll make bad decisions. If all you care about is funky politics and you're like, oh, I'm just going to leave. Listen, you may hate life wherever you move if God's not leading you. And I can guarantee you this, because I get it once or twice a month. I wish we hadn't have moved because I can't find a church here. And my family is struggling. So understand this. There are things greater than politics. There are things greater than your bank account. A spiritual family is almost irreplaceable. If God is leading, then let God lead. But my point is this. Don't just be led by your politics or led by can get a fatter job or my 401k will be safer or blah, blah, blah. Those are all maybe good blessings, but understand this. If you're making decisions without God, they're going to be bad decisions. Get all the information you can, pray about it, seek godly counsel, and then make the decision. Don't just go, I'm totally agitated. I'm out. And then you land over here, and then a year later, you're like, and I'm still agitated. Get the information, make the right decision, and you'll have a beautiful future. Nehemiah checks all the genealogies to make sure he knows what he's doing. With the new plan, some who led the construction weren't chosen as leaders for the move into Jerusalem. Here's our principle. Those with skills in one phase might not be leaders in the next. Hey, sometimes if you're really a good leader in one phase, you might not be a leader in the next. You might just be a helper in the next phase. So we had guys that built this building, bunch of people that don't know Jesus. Steel guys put these beams in to hold the ceiling up. We trenched under the cement to bring water and sewer and electrical to run up in the walls and up to everything. Everything you see here was not here. This was an empty furniture store with posts in the middle of this room. We redesigned everything. And everything you see here was done by craftsmen. The painting, those walls, those sawtooth walls with the lights in it, all these lights hanging up here, they painted the ceiling black. They laid this carpet. They put these chairs in. Guys on their knees laid all these planks of LVP that you under your feet. Things you don't even recognize, like elite guys did that. And some of them didn't even know Jesus. You know what I tell them? I go, hey, you put this floor in, come to know Jesus. They'll drive by all the time, and they'll tell me, because they're working on the other building too. They go, man, every time I drive by the Orchard, man, I just go, man, I worked on that building. I go, I'm so glad. Now come make it your home. Ready? Sometimes leaders in one phase won't be leaders in the next. They'll just be helpers. They'll be the pursuers. You put everything together, everybody does their job in leading in their specific areas, and all of a sudden it's awesome for everybody. Which leads us lastly to number 3. Number 1, Nehemiah chooses the right leadership. If you are not a leader, get yourself ready to be a leader by being trustworthy and having integrity and working hard. God will raise you up. If you're already a leader and you're having high turnover, Check and see if everybody understands the mission of what you're trying to get done. Okay? Number 2, Nehemiah gathers the right information. Don't just freak out every time you emotionally get upside down. Make decisions with right information and godly counsel. Lastly, number 3, the people give to support the right mission. At the end of this chapter, in verses 70 through 72, you see a bunch of gold and silver being given. So let's walk through that. After verifying the genealogy, including some priests who were removed after they couldn't corroborate their lineage, the people could see the vision and mission materializing. Hey, are you guys excited about the other building up there? I can't wait for you guys to walk through that, because we've been talking about it and giving towards it, and we're like, dude, I'm kind of like numb about you talking about it. When you walk through there and you're going to hear your grandkids screaming in the gym, like you're going to literally be walking in things you gave to. Like you're seeing the mission materialize right in front of your eyes, right on the 215. Look at this. All of Nehemiah's hard work, vision casting, and perseverance moved the hearts of God's people to give to finish God's mission. Full of joy, they gave over 16 million in gold and silver. And here's our principle. Buy-in is evidenced by giving to. When people are bought into the mission, man, people give to it. That's why I was saying, even at a job, there are people that don't want to leave their job for other jobs that pay more because they love where they work. Because it's a mission. They love the people they're with, like they're doing life together. Like, that's why I'm saying mission's more important than a paycheck. It's nice when you get paid and you're on mission, but man, it's fun to jump on with people that are doing something important. Here it is. Ready? They gave over $16 million to help Nehemiah finish the wall and finish the city. And I just want to say this. Look at me. Almost done. Look at me. I want to say how much I appreciate and love this church. This is the most generous, sacrificial church I've ever seen in my life. You guys gave to not only for the last few years, some of you guys are here just for the last 4 months. People have been giving to make this happen. So the joke around us as a staff is we came from a Wiener Schnitzel. So if you Google map like our Moraga property, it looks like the old school Wiener Schnitzel with a sloped roof and all this stuff. I'll bring a picture someday, okay? We're here now. People worked for years to get here. You guys gave so we could make that happen. And I just want to say how much I love you and appreciate you, and I am so humbled as your pastor to be a part of a family that gives so that other people who aren't part of our family yet can find a space to be a part of what God's doing. Literally, your giving. Let's go, Jesus. Hey, listen to what I'm saying. Listen, I want to love on you for a second. Your giving is not to make buildings nice. Your giving is literally changing the eternities of people that are walking through this building that wanted to die this last week. So it isn't about nice space. It's nice to have a nice space. But we do Jesus work here. So people's lives are changed. And you gave to that. You might not even see much of the blessing in this life of the work that your money has done to change people's lives. But someday Jesus is going to reward you face to face and say, well done. Listen, God can do it all. God's not poor. God can make everything happen he wants to. But you know what he does do? He relies on me and you to give to things that we think are important. God doesn't need our money, but we need to give it when we see, hey, mission's happening. And you guys did that. So I don't care if you gave $10 or $100,000, because some of you guys scratch checks that big. And I want to say thank you. Because in the same way these people gave freely to God, you gave freely to God. And it's going to matter in this valley and around the world. Look at Exodus 36, 1 through 7. This is when they were building the tabernacle in the Old Testament. And here's an example of when the people got stoked to give to God. Bezalel and Oholiab, and every craftsman in whom the Lord had put skill and intelligence. So God is the ultimate designer of work. To know how to do any work in the construction of the sanctuary shall work in accordance with all the Lord has commanded. And Moses and Bezalel and Oholiab and every craftsman in whose mind the Lord had put skill, everyone whose heart stirred him up to do the work. and they received from Moses all the contribution of the people of Israel and had brought for doing the work in the sanctuary, they still kept bringing him free will offerings every morning, so that all the craftsmen who were doing every sort of task in the sanctuary came, each from his task that he was doing, said to Moses, "The people bring more than enough for doing the work the Lord has commanded us to do." So Moses gave a command, and a word was proclaimed throughout the camp: let no man or woman do anything more for the contribution of the sanctuary. So the people were restrained from bringing, for the material they had was sufficient to do all the work and more. Listen, that's what it means to be on mission. When you have buy-in, giving too happens. And you guys did that. So thank you. Generations, when we are all in the dust, will see Jesus because of what you've done. So thank you for being on mission for God. I close with this. Through the trials, anxiety, and sleepless nights, Nehemiah brought to life what God had put in his heart and what he had promised the people months earlier. His faithfulness blessed the people, and they blessed God back. Listen to me. I know none of you struggle with anxiety. Nehemiah, he's tasked with an unbelievable task. People want to kill him. Think about the anxiety laying awake at night going, some dude might come in and kill me tonight. You want to talk about anxiety and that sick feeling you have in your stomach and your heart just pumps adrenaline all the time? That's Nehemiah. So let me put Nehemiah into your world. Ready? Just because you follow God doesn't mean you won't have sleepless nights. I woke up at 3:30 this morning thinking about this sermon. And I said, Jesus, couldn't you have told me this at some other time? That's a true story. So you're going to have moments of like sheer like sickness and like, I hate my life. That happens to godly people too. Here's how you deal with your anxiety. Let me help you. And your depression and everything that goes around with your emotional state. Do not go to your crutches. Don't try to fix the emotional agitation with your pill bottle. Or like, man, I just need to get high real quick because it's legal. Or like if you're a cutter and you're like, I just cut to like release that serotonin and it just, in the moment, it gets me over the feeling of like agitation in my life. So girls and women tend to struggle in that particular area. So let me help you. Ready? The minute you have those feelings, we all do things habitually to fix it. So we all go back to porn or the pills or the illicit relationship. We sleep with somebody or whatever. It's like we just kind of do these destructive things, and I cut myself, and it's over and over and over and over and over. We're literally destroying the work of God in our life. We're destroying the beautiful body that God built from the inside or the outside. Nehemiah walked your road. Here's how you deal with that. And I'm going to close with this, the heaviest part of the whole sermon. Ready? Take all of your anxiety to Jesus first. When you wake up and you're like all stressed out, just take it to Jesus. Help me in this moment. God, help me overcome my feelings of panic, my feelings of anxiety, my feelings I want to lose it. God, help me in this moment to de-escalate in my mind. And then here, ready? Find somebody that can walk alongside of you and give you godly guidance. Okay? Don't be by yourself. Listen to what I'm saying. You will die in the dark by yourself. Come out of the darkness. There's no shame. This is a no-shame church. Just deal with what's real. We will help you. Don't die. You'll die in the dark by yourself. Don't do that. Come walk with people who will walk alongside of you. Take it to Jesus first. Walk with healthy spiritual people in your life second. That's literally the two sides of the coin of a healthy walk with God. You're not going to get away in living for God even with no emotional trauma. It happens to everybody. It happens to Nehemiah. But guess what? He persevered to the end, and he got to see the beauty of God's mission happen in front of his face. Why? Because he didn't give up, and he didn't train wreck his own life. Finish strong. This church is here to help you finish strong. If you struggle in an area, we will help you because we love you. Because we want to see you do great things for God.